The first of the candidates forums. We have another one next Tuesday night in Cornelius, and then on October 9th in Huntersville. So come on out and see what's going on in those towns as well. And with that, actually I want to thank WSIC for sponsoring tonight and broadcasting this for us. So with that, I will turn it over to Mayor Knox.
Hello. You talk into this thing, you can get a lot of volume out of it. I have a big mouth anyway. Thank y'all. As Brian said, I am running unopposed again. I don't take that lightly. I still will work the polls. I will still be there all day shaking hands on election day. This is very important to me. I do this job full time, and it's the best job I ever had. I want to thank WSIC and the Chamber for putting this on. We do have 3 more in Davidson. We do have 3 more candidate forums. We have one Monday night. I can't remember the rest of the dates, but we'll make sure to put them out on the town website so you have them. I know there is one Monday that is here also. I do want to acknowledge that Commissioner Steve Justice is out of the country on a planned vacation from a year ago, so they couldn't deviate. He's seeing some children that he has living in England, and Ryan Fay, Commissioner Fay, had a family commitment tonight that he could not reschedule, so he will be in attendance on Monday night. Other than that, I want to thank you folks for being here. I hope more people show up. This is still an important election this fall. Besides electing the mayor and commissioners, we have school board candidates, and we have a transit tax referendum that's on the ballot as well. And I urge you to do your homework on both the transit tax and the school board candidates, as well as the candidates for commissioner, because it's, even though it's an off-year election, it's important. And it's important to our town, it's important to our region. So thank you, and with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Justin.
I'm assuming, thank you, Mayor Knox, thank you, we appreciate it. We appreciate the town of Davidson for letting us come in tonight. Just a heads up for everybody too, we are broadcasting live on WSIC right now from this room, so we're grateful for that opportunity to be able to broadcast to the world the candidates that are running for Davidson commissioners tonight, as well as Charlotte-Mecklenburg School District 1, and so we are excited about that. I'm assuming I'm gonna be allowed to continue talking because Bill Russell isn't running up here to take the microphone from me. So Bill Russell will be down in the front row here helping with some time things, and as well as if you have any questions. Oh, Miss Leah Trowbridge is in the back here with, it looks like cards and pens for those that would like to submit questions. You are welcome to. We are also monitoring online our video stream. We are video streaming as well from here tonight, and people can submit questions online. We do anticipate those coming in. I do have this earpiece in my ear right now. That's because I'm talking to the producer team that is in the back of the room and back at our studio, and they will relay those questions to me. At a quick moment, I do want to make sure we do have the 4 wireless mics for our candidates up here, just to give everyone a fair, equal shot of starting across the board. Did you all turn those on by chance? They were off before, so you probably did not. So if you flip the little bottom part, okay, you got green on top here. I can come up here and help. I'm gonna do a little move. My wife says I can't multitask, but I'm gonna prove that not true tonight. Let's see.
Hello,
come on up here. Okay.
Hello.
Is that one? Okay, test 1, 2.
Hello.
Okay, let's try the other one.
Test,
1, 2,
test.
3. Okay. Bill, can you on my 3, 4, 5, 6 for me? Let me check this back.
Hello.
Oh yeah, you're good. Let's try that one.
Yep. Autumn.
Here we go. Let's go again.
Test 1, 2.
Okay.
1, 2.
Check 1, 2, 3.
You got 3 on that, Bill? You good? Okay, good to go. Perfect. Excellent. All right, so we've got questions down here. If you guys have questions, you can submit them. Otherwise, we will go ahead and get started. And how we're going to do it, always like to let you guys introduce yourselves first. That's how we like to do these at the forums. So I'm going to go left to right, just started randomly here for this one. So we'll start on the left with you, sir. If you would introduce yourself, your name, and if you whatever you would like to share about yourself.
Okay. My name's David Lusk. I am a somewhat newer resident of Davidson, but lived in the DC area for a number of years, but my wife's originally from the South Charlotte area, so we were looking since about 2019 to get into Davidson. Opportunity opened up with the small business that I run, that I can actually run from pretty much anywhere, and so we've been in the area now since early 23.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Tracy Madison Brandon. I've been living in Davidson for over 16 years. Married to Marvin Brandon, who is a native of Davidson. And so we love living here and being part of the community. And I have over 4 decades of experience in leadership and community advocacy, and so it is my honor to serve as a town commissioner, but also running for the re-election for one of the seats on the board. And so I'm happy to be here. My full-time job is a campus minister, which is almost a 24/7 job with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, and I'm assigned to the Davidson College. So that's.
We appreciate you being here tonight.
Thank you. I'm Autumn Ryerson Michael, and we've lived here in town for about 20 years. We live right on Main Street, so I live and breathe the traffic that y'all might talk about tonight. We have 4 kids, so I've got 2 in college and 2 in high school still with me. And for the past 5, I'm a reformed recovering lawyer, and the last 5 years I've been teaching high school civics, which I feel really called to do in our current world, so I've really loved that. I've been on the board for 8 years, so this is my 4th term, and I'm excited to run again this fall. Look forward to being here tonight and hearing the questions.
Thank you for being here.
Hey there, I'm Connie Wessner, and I thought I might just tell you a quick story about why I'm running. So Autumn and I share something in common. I was, for 15 years, a school administrator at Community School of Davidson, where Autumn teaches. And part of my job was to go out and develop our service and experiential learning programs. And so I was in this community a lot, and I would say things like, hey, I have a crazy idea, and it involves you, and it involves what you do for work, and it involves 12 to 15 teenagers. What do you think? And yeah, it was a crazy question to ask. What was crazier to me is that in 15 years, no one ever said no in this community. That speaks to the talent and the creativity, the willingness to collaborate that's in this town and is what makes this town go. And for me, it's kind of the question of, why wouldn't you run for town board when you get the opportunity to stoke something like that? So I'm glad to be here tonight, and I'm interested in your questions.
Thank you all again for being here tonight. We look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas as running for commissioner here in the town of Davidson. I'm going to go now the reverse direction on the first question, just to do that again. So, Connie, you get to talk twice in a row here. What would you say is the ultimate role of a commissioner here in the town of Davidson?
Well, that's a really nice segue from what I was talking about. So in my view, so I served 2 terms on the town board years ago. I've lived here almost 30 years. And I think what I learned as a school administrator more than as a town commissioner is that the role of a town commissioner is to clear the decks in front of the people in this community who can make things go. We have an incredible array of talent here. We have a really robust nonprofit sector. And I think the thing that has made Davidson what it is today is the people in this community who've seen problems, seen challenges, seen opportunities, and decided, we can handle that. Let's go ahead and do that. I think the role of a town commissioner is to say, show me how I can help you.
Thank you. Autumn, same question for you. How would you describe what the role of a commissioner in the town of Davidson is?
So I would say that our role is that of vision setting and reflecting. So helping to create a vision for the community, but in doing that, reflecting back what the community is telling us that they want to see. So we see all the time in the news and in articles about what an amazing place this is to live and to visit and to shop. And it's a very intentional place. Davidson didn't become Davidson without a lot of intentionality in decision making. So I think it's setting that vision and then making sure that the decisions we make on the board that then staff implements so well, that's done in a really, really intentional way.
Thank you. Tracy, same question to you. How would you describe the role of a commissioner in the town of Davidson?
I think one of the most important roles of a commissioner is to listen well, to be intentional about what the community needs are and respond to them in a way that considers what's best for the whole and not just for the few. I think that it takes a level of integrity and accountability in the leadership, the type of leadership, and I believe in a servant leadership at that. So I'm walking alongside the residents, my neighbors. I'm walking alongside you in development and interest and values. And so I think that it's important for the commissioner to carry out the values, the stated values of the town. But then also there's a responsibility of future-minded growth where there's balance between progress and preservation. And so I think that we have that also as part of our responsibility to make sure that we do that well.
Thank you. David, you're the last one here to the left for me, so same question. How would you describe the role of a commissioner in the town of Davidson?
Well, I think one of the most important things to do as a commissioner is to be a voice for the residents of Davidson. You know, we have a pretty talented staff here at Town Hall, but what's important is that all different voices are represented, and so I think as a commissioner, it's imperative that we listen to folks in the community and understand what they want. And in the 30 years I've been in government relations, I've spent over the last 20-some years looking at ways that I can give people a voice, from working for the organization that invented online advocacy to the advocate training that I do now, where since 2010 I've trained over 15,000 people how to have a voice in front of policymakers at any level. So I think a commissioner needs to be able to listen to the community and understand what their concerns are and then convey that to the greater vision of Davidson.
We're now going to switch to a small topic that we may touch a couple of times throughout the evening, but development. Certainly popular these days, it seems like. And so, Autumn, I'll start with you this time. And so how do you think a long-term plan strategy affects development in the town of Davidson?
I think it's critical, no question about it, which is why we have a comprehensive plan that comprehensively looks at transit, transportation, greenways, development, and how we plan communities and allow communities to be planned within the framework that the state allows us to do. So it goes back to that intentionality of creating and allowing a community to be created with that sharp focus and vision on this small town community that we want to be. It's difficult. It really is. Having been here 8 years now, I can tell you it's harder than I thought it would be when I sat on the other side of this, to be intentional when you have so many competing demands and so many competing public policies. But I think that it's looking at them comprehensively and holistically within our plans that makes it so important in how that develop, how we grow and where we grow. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Tracy, same question for you. How does a long-term plan affect the town of Davidson?
The one thing that helps us do long-term planning well is the vision of our town staff, as well as input from community. And what makes sense for Davidson doesn't necessarily make sense for other areas. The development in specific neighborhoods don't match each neighborhood. So for me, the intentionality of long-term growth is like, what do we want this to look like for, one, the next generation? What do we want to set in place that still retains the feel, the character of Davidson, but also maybe some progressive in growth. So it's all about smart growth. And for me, that has to do with like mixed use zoning, which we do, and just keeping in mind, like, we don't want to outgrow ourselves, or we don't want to outdevelop ourselves. And we don't want to develop in a way that we lose our community values.
Thank you. David, same question for you. How does a long-term plan affect development in the town of Davidson?
Well, it certainly gives the commissioners and the mayor sort of a roadmap of where we want to go and what we need to follow. And certainly within that is following all the different town ordinances and things that we have to maintain, such as 50% of open space in any kind of future development. I think what's important is to understand, it also helps us understand what are the values of the community. We know that Davidson's going to grow. We know that at some point that means change. And it's how do we mitigate that change against competing interests so that it creates a better place, and the place that is a wonderful place to live, which is something that drove most of us here. I think everyone up here is not a native of Davidson. So it's creating a great place and maintaining that, which I think is really more challenging than even creating something to begin with. So, but there's a lot of sort of structure already that the town, we have a great town staff that we can lean on as a member of the Planning Advisory Board. And I've worked with our staff to understand what is already in place, and it's just making certain that our growth aligns with that.
Thank you. And Connie, same question for you. How does a long-term plan affect the development in the town of Davidson?
So I spent 2 terms on the planning board and 2 terms on the town board back in the early part of the 2000s. And Autumn and Tracy are right. There's been a lot of intentionality in the way we've grown and in the way we've looked at the opportunities that growth offers us and the threats that come along with that. I guess the thing that I think about, nearly 2 decades later is we've been really good at it, and sometimes when you're that good at it, you displace people, not intentionally, but you start to squeeze out the people. We've been so good at it. This is an incredibly attractive, affluent place to live, and I think the key factor now is looking at how you keep the doors open to people who don't earn very high incomes.
And that leads me to my next question, still related to develop. Currently, if you look at public data available with Canopy multiple listing service, the average list price for the town of Davidson has notched over $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the residential portion of the current development plan in the town of Davidson? And David, I'll start with you.
There was a little bit of noise. Could you repeat the tail end of that?
Yep. So the average list price currently for the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the residential portion of the current plan for development in the town of Davidson?
Well, certainly affordability, not just with housing, but across the board of being able to live in Davidson is a bit of a challenge, right? But affordability across the country, we're hearing about the missing middle, even where I used to live in Northern Virginia, that there are challenges there. I have seen the work that the town is doing in trying to leverage some of the town property with what they're doing with the DFI and trying to find a way to make it more affordable. As Connie has kind of said, as you do grow, you do tend to leave some people out, but we've got to find a way to make certain that people who serve Davidson, that people who work in Davidson can also afford to live in Davidson. So I think the town is already on a strong path, and we have to kind of let that play out and see what that brings us in the next coming years.
Thank you. Tracy, same question. The average list price in the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Anything you would change about the current residential portion of the plan for development within the town of Davidson?
There's one thing that I've always paid attention to, and this is not necessarily for an entire development, but when people buy properties, there's people have been tearing homes down and building these massive homes, which I think is attributing to the prices of homes going up. When I say massive, like we're talking like 3 to 4 times the square footage. And so there's something in our ordinance that has a percentage of the size of your land, and that's the size of house that you could build. But I think the percentage is off, apparently. Is that me or you?
Bill, will you turn down 4 for me just a smidge? Thank you.
I'm sorry, but but I think that percentage is off in terms of because we're building larger homes where there were smaller homes. So when they build, I always think about the character of the existing neighborhood. And so to me, that's one of the things that is affecting the high rise in the property values. and the values of the homes.
Thank you. Autumn, same question for you. The average list price? Mute 4. Thank you. Average list price in the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the current residential portion of the plan for development in the town of Davidson?
So we've created, and y'all have created, and the folks who came before us have created a truly amazing place to live, work, and shop. And because of that, there's high demand to be here. So that's exciting. Coming with that are some housing price issues like you're describing, and affordable living issues as well. So I think we as a board have tried, the market is the market, and I think we as a board have tried to mitigate some of those potential negative impacts through our affordable housing work that we've done with the property on Beatty Street, with Parkside Terrace, with some other properties in town to try to create some affordability there. But that mitigation is going to be really key. The historic preservation ordinance has been helpful to the issue that Tracy is describing of gentrification and the size of housing that's coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Short.
Connie?
Yeah, okay.
Connie, same question for you. The average list price in the town of Davidson is $1.1 million. Is there anything you would change about the current residential portion of the plan for development in the town of Davidson?
So in full disclosure, I'm the director of the Davidson Affordable Housing Coalition, and so I joined that board back in 1998 when we moved here, and we built we had a sort of a building boom then of doing some affordable rentals. What I wish we had known then, what I wish we could do more of now, though I respect how hard it is to do, is to look at when we put affordable housing on the ground, how do we keep it affordable? Not just in the immediate couple of years, but 10, 15, 20 years in, as it gets more and more difficult to sustain that affordability. I think a big piece of our focus needs to be on preserving natural affordable housing as it occurs here, and also really looking at the investments we've already made and making sure that we live out the full value of the investment we made in building them.
Thank you. Infrastructure. Tracy, I'm going to start with you on this first one, okay? What, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
So for one, there's not one answer to the different challenges that we face. And so I support innovative ways in terms of addressing the traffic congestion and improving public transportation. I support the transportation referendum that will help address some of the congestion and things that occur because of our infrastructure. The one thing that really holds us back is that, the lake is right at, the end of our town. And so that's something to be challenging. And so I think that we have to address some things that cause traffic issues in terms of sight lines and the flow of traffic. And so the circles are something that I've supported, and I think that it's been helpful.
Thank you. David, what, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
Well, I think it's trying to have some careful development that looks at ways that we can avoid having to lean more and more or overwhelm the current infrastructure that we have. So in Northern Virginia, for instance, in the Vienna community, there's a model plan that really is being followed across the country in this area called the Mosaic District, where they're actually able to leverage mixed use, have a a wink and a nod to maintaining the open space that's needed, but also having to go vertical and build density. It also has access to some of the public transportation that's in the area, whether it's rail, whether it's bus, and of course also with different types of ride sharing. So looking at what the town has, looking at what the potential that the town could have with the 1 cent tax and what that could mean, which could be really just generationally changing what Davidson is able to do. I think looking at those options and how do we, again, not lean on our infrastructure or overwhelm it too much with smart growth.
Thank you. Connie, what, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
So I think Tracy hit the nail on the head. I mean, infrastructure, what a big topic. So I'll just pick another little piece of it, and that is, so I served on the Vision Zero, or not the Vision Zero task force, the pedestrian safety task force here in town, and I think as we think about building infrastructure, we also have to spend a lot of time thinking about what do those changes in infrastructure do, particularly for pedestrian safety and bike safety, because we've made a real investment in making sure this is a walkable and bikeable town. And while we have to find ways to funnel the traffic around us and through us, every time we do that, we have to pay attention to what is that doing to people who are out there walking and biking and taking some of the pressures off the roads.
Thank you. Autumn, what, if any, ideas do you support as it relates to funding infrastructure needs in the town of Davidson?
Certainly the transit tax referendum is a good start, and that's one piece of it. But as my fellow candidates have said, it's a comprehensive problem with a multi-layered solutions or multi-layered solutions. That infrastructure is talking about greenways and side paths and bike paths, in addition to roads and potential transit, in addition to bus service or trolley service that we have during special events, in addition to the micro transit pilot program. So it's really kind of throwing bubblegum at the wall in terms of lots of different, don't do that in a high school room, but in lots of different ways to try to spread the use out in different modes of transportation.
Thank you. Switching to schools, and as we noted, we do have the next session will be with the CMS School Board District 1 candidates. We appreciate everyone who's here from that and willing to be here to talk tonight as well. But as it relates to being a commissioner in the town of Davidson, and Autumn, I'll stick with you again on this one. How would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
So a couple of things. I've had 4 kids of school, or have 4 kids of school age, all of whom went through Davidson Elementary and Bailey, and 1 through Huff. Certainly the development pressures that we feel up here impact our communities and our schools. CMS is working to address that. We've had placement in, making Davidson Elementary into a Davidson K-8, and then now going back to Bailey because of that growth. So continuing to keep their eye on that. I would love for CMS to have the ability to look at growth as it's coming versus once it's here, which I know from a data perspective is difficult to do, but I think it would make a tremendous impact in being ahead of that ball instead of behind it, if my sports metaphor is correct. Maybe.
Thank you. David, how would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
Well, it's certainly growing. As our community grows, it's going to have pressure on our school districts as it is. So now, admittedly, Beth and I don't have kids, and we actually live in Iredell County, in the Iredell County part of Davidson. So we haven't seen as much directly what all the pressures are within the school districts in town. But I do know that the growth is happening, and that they're again having to change Davidson K through 8 back to Davidson Elementary, and hopefully find ways to to offer to CMS the opportunities to grow in the area closer to home rather than having to bus kids too far, as some they've already had to do with some of the solutions. So.
Thank you. Connie, how would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
So I think I heard this question differently. I was thinking in terms of the needs of the school children in Davidson, because we don't, as town commissioners, get to do much in terms of school policy or control that, though I would share what everyone said here about being able to manage growth. I think in terms of as more options for different schools have sprung up here, we have a wealth of choices for people with schools. I think something that our kids are losing in town is that connectedness that you get when everybody goes, and Rusty will remember this, when everybody goes to the same elementary school, when everybody goes to the same junior high school. And I think to the extent that we can have any impact on it, I think it's paying attention to providing lots of opportunities for the kids who live in Davidson to be together as kids and to experience what childhood is like here in Davidson. I think that's the best way we can support CMS, since we can't do much in terms of CMS policy.
Thank you. Tracy, how would you describe the current needs for schools in the town of Davidson?
I think that as we continue to grow, one of the things that's important is the size of the classroom, and I think that lends itself to the changes that CMS is trying to implement in building more schools to make more room, but also making sure that we have quality teachers, but we retain them. And that's something that I've seen where some contracts may not have been renewed, or changes in leadership has affected the overall administration of schools in Davidson. And so I think that being consistent and being able to retain quality administrators and as well as teachers and educators makes a difference, because that creates the atmosphere for the child, and we want to create an atmosphere where they learn best. And so I think that that's really key.
Thank you. Turning now to the budget for the town of Davidson. Connie, I'll start with you. What do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
So I think the top priorities are always public safety, infrastructure, and managing development and growth in the town. But we're lucky in Davidson to have quite a nice revenue base to work with. It's never as much as we need, but we have the ability to fund our nonprofit sector and really leverage what the local nonprofit organizations in Davidson can provide on top of the services we can provide as a town hall. I think that's one way to maximize the revenues we have. I think in terms of overall priority, for me, it's affordable housing. I think it's probably affordable housing for a lot of folks sitting up here. I think that's one place where the town can make an investment that reflects one of the biggest threats we're seeing as we grow.
Thank you. Autumn, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
So I'm just nerdy enough that I have our Met County property tax graphics up here. And more than 50% of our current budget goes to our police, fire, public safety kind of infrastructure needs. So I think that's critically important in our community. Our community thinks that is important. We have on the horizon, fire station number 1 has outgrown its current home in our old town hall because of some turnaround ability. I might have made that word up, but turnaround ability of fire trucks. And so we'll be hyper-focused on that in the coming years as well in figuring out how to fund that and to serve our community, in addition to the transit-related issues are going to be tremendous.
Thank you. Tracy, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
Based on community feedback, public safety is number one, and I think that we've done a really good job in not only just keeping the town safe, but also implementing some of the changes, like with making sure that people are crossing safely, and also implementing a co-responder that goes along with the police in need of mental health assistance with people that they encounter. And then also the community engagement officer is very key to the whole value that we exude in terms of connectedness. But I think the second thing is also infrastructure, because that's where the greenways and are going to make a difference in the trajectory of being able to get from one place to another without being able to get into your car. So I think there's going to be a lot of money that needs to be spent toward infrastructure that way.
Thank you. David, what do you believe to be the top priorities for the budget for the town of Davidson?
Well, as the other candidates have said, certainly public safety is near the top, if not at the top. As communities grow, there's always opportunities for things to change and crime to start to slip in. So I think that we want to maintain that sort of broken windows theory, that we prevent things from happening before they get worse, to stay ahead of that and make certain that we're investing in our police force. Obviously, as the town grows, we have to invest in fire as well. And having seen all the different discussions with what's happening with trying to move and relocate Fire Station 1, with that also comes walkability and public safety, being able to get around the different neighborhoods. And I think some of what I've seen, at least from where I live, is there are neighborhoods that have a connectivity issue, that there's no way to safely actually get around or into Davidson from Davidson Point. I know we're working on things with Summer Walk. So there needs to be a way to better connect our communities so that folks see downtown as a continual destination, while it also is safe. Another thing that we have to spend money on is going to be affordable housing. There's a lot that the town is trying to do that's maybe a bit experimental, and I think that should be a budget priority as well, to make certain that not only is Davidson a desirable place to be, but it's a place that you can move to and stay.
Thank you. Switching now to community engagement. Autumn, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
So community engagement to me is really what we do best as a community. And it's the people who we've helped create a beautiful space, but it's the people, it's the Friday nights behind Summit and the concerts on the green or concerts at the circles and the parade, and sort of these places of gathering of people that makes it such a tremendous of community. So some of that is the event planning that the town does, and some of that is the town planning in terms of creating spaces that are third places that people can organically gather and feels good for people to gather. I think we as a board work to make sure that we have community engagement sessions with folks, and listening, as Tracy said earlier, is really critical to the work that we do in engagement.
Thank you. David, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
I mean, one of those is having an approachable mentality. Certainly Mayor Knox, he kind of sets the tone at the top, and ever since I've moved to Davidson, he's been a very approachable person. We've had many coffees over at Summit and just phone conversations. But I also have to compliment the rest of our board as well. Tracy has helped me out in doing an advocate training for one of my clients, the American Medical Association. So seeing an approachable commission of public officials who want to engage with the public. I also know that the commissioner chats have been something that have been very valuable. I organized one at Davidson Point, and everyone was willing to come and participate. So it's having public officials who understand the value of engaging with the community. the benefits that can come from that and who are willing to do so as well and invest that time.
Thank you. Tracy, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
The one thing I love about Davidson is that we're innovative, and so there are certain things that, like Concert on the Greens, they implemented the concerts at 30 circles at 30, and the Taste of Davidson, and the Spring Fest that was new this year. That was a very huge success that took place at River Run soccer fields, and then also like the First Fridays and just listening to the businesses. One thing is I think one thing that's helpful is how some businesses will have like networking events, like King Canary, having network events with the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. The things that bring us most together is the creation of space and opportunity to come together. And so I think about the space behind Summit. And if you just sit back there and just watch, there's a playground, there's people engaging, there's meetings happening, and it's just a beautiful sight to see community coming together because they have space to do so.
Thank you. And Connie, what, if any, initiatives do you believe to be most effective to involve and engage with the community?
Well, I think you have to show up. I think you have to be at those events and be engaged and open to the community. As David said, you know, Rusty is an approachable guy, and I think that that's, as hard as this job is and as many hours as it takes to do this job, I think the crux of the job is being out there, available, ready to talk, ready to have a conversation, wherever that is, because as we can see here, it's hard to get people to any one single place. Even when it's an engaged community, it's hard to get people to show up on your schedule. So you kind of have to be on theirs. And that's a commitment, I think, that anyone who's on the town board needs to be able to make, needs to be able to say, I'll get to as many events as I can and I'll just be available.
Connectivity and access. David, I'll start with you. Which areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
Sort of answered that one. It's a running joke with the commission and mayor. Certainly Davidson Point, the community where I live, there's no safe way to walk or bicycle into town. I'm even nervous going out on my motorcycle on 115 half the time. But there are ways to work around that without necessarily building greenways or sidewalks or things that can take bigger investment. One of the things that benefited Davidson Point was Kim Fleming worked with me to set up a trolley service for Christmas in Davidson. So now we had a connection last year with that, and we have it again available this year. What I saw when that happened, and I made certain that Davidson Point residents were going to participate and use the trolley, we had families getting together and having parties, having grandkids or kids coming over, folks who were able to leverage that and get into town. When in the past they said they wouldn't go into Christmas in Davidson. They didn't know where they could park. They didn't know how they would get around. The traffic would be atrocious. So I think Summers Walk, which is another new community on the outskirts of town that needs to have better connectivity. I know the town is working on that, and there's an ability to do that. But you know, the Davidson Point challenge is there are some jurisdictional issues. There are other things that are going to make greenways or sidewalks not necessarily possible in the near term. And so it's what other solutions can we find that maybe bring folks in from different communities on Saturday for the farmers market? Do we set up a trolley service for every community around that's on the outskirts that they share and participate in? So.
Thank you. Autumn, are there, which areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
I would venture to bet that every single neighborhood would say we have the most important needs. So I think David has outlined some of them, certainly Davidson Point in terms of connectivity there along North Main Street, but we've got Pot Sloan Beatty, it's got serious sidewalk needs there. We've got infrastructure needs in the River Run and the communities in kind of East Davidson, and connecting those together, and Greenway needs. So it's like choosing a favorite child. It's hard to say that one neighborhood or one community has the most needs, because I think each one of them would say, this is really important to our community, which is why we have to prioritize with like our 5-year sidewalk plan of this year we're doing this one, next year this one, next year this one, to make sure they're spread out throughout the whole community, and it's an equitable approach to the community.
Thank you. Connie, which areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
So I'm not going to fall for that either, because it is like picking your favorite child or your favorite student. There's another way to think of connectivity, though. As the town does become more affluent, as house prices get up there over $1 million, another way of thinking about connectivity is, do people feel like there's space for them to be connected to this town? You know, restaurants cost a lot of money to go out to eat at, and do people feel welcome? Does every person that we invite to live in the town of Davidson feel legitimately connected to our town, and do they feel a sense of belongingness? So I think that's another way to think about this problem, and think about how you reach out to neighborhoods and get into those neighborhoods and listen to find out what would make people feel as if they are a part of this town.
Thank you. Tracy, what areas of town do you believe need the most help with connectivity in the town of Davidson?
To sum it up, the east side. And so that means like inclusive of Fisher Farm to the Narrow Passage, Greenway, and then the Kincaid Trail, and then the Summers Walk to Rivers Run, and then obviously Davidson Point. That's been something that we've been working on and just doing. So the connectivity is not just about greenways, whatever, but it's also about relationships and how we are inviting the different neighborhoods to better and more community engagement. And so to Connie, when you first said this, the first thing I thought of was people connectivity and bringing more affordable like options, because food, you know, we do a lot of things around food or whatever. So, but affordable food options are really, really good, because I know people on the west side that don't feel connected to Main Street. And then there was a disconnect between North and South Main Street. And so we're working on different things and different businesses that will encourage more connectivity in that way as well.
Thank you. Connie, starting with you on the next question, events and arts. Are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
Yeah, I would like to see the town be able to invest in the Davidson Community Players project to develop more facility for performing arts. We've got this really nice auditorium here, and I think we could leverage it more. I was here last Friday night for Jill Lepore, and to see this entire auditorium filled with people, I think there's much, much more opportunity we have here, and I think that also spills over to the range of programming that Davidson Community Players can bring us by building their facility out as well.
Thank you. Autumn, are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
Yeah, first of all, I'm super excited about our Veterans Memorial in particular that you've probably seen grow in front of the post office space. And actually there were folks out there day before yesterday, literally community members out weeding and such, and that's pretty amazing to see as a community space and public art space. I am thrilled to have lots of art opportunities here through the college and the VAC there, as well as the community players. It would be wonderful to have a really public maker space, you know, get your hands dirty kind of ceramics and visual art kind of maker space here that we don't have. So I would love to get creative about that from an arts perspective.
Thank you. Tracy, are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
Well, one of the things that we've talked about the possibility, placemaking. We have funds that are allotted to placemaking, and so they've started doing some creative things like on South Main in front of the Davidson Elementary School, and we have another project coming up, South Main, so it really fits the vibe of Davidson to do the placemaking type artsy type of things, but also storytelling as part of our history and maintaining our history is something that I've served on a subcommittee, a storytelling committee, and I want to see more gatherings in that space and sharing of talents and ideas and also history.
Thank you. David, are there any events or art projects you would like to see in the town of Davidson?
I have to second a lot of what Tracy said about storytelling. So someone who basically focuses on storytelling for his professional career and how do you sort of best share a story. One of the things that was a little bit lacking in the Civics 101 course was a better understanding or a longer understanding of the true history of Davidson. Whether it's Mayor Knox sharing some of his family history, what was happening and some of the things that have happened over on Davidson West. There's already a lot in town that's pretty vibrant, though, I'd like to say. And that's one of the reasons why we chose Davidson. Between going to the Visual Arts Center with the college, other concerts that are at the college, some of the items on the green or over at the circles, perhaps maybe just a little bit more collaboration on other ideas of what could come forth. But I think we already have a lot here that we could leverage and just expand upon that. So,
thank you. As we wrap up this first session, I'm going to go the reverse direction. As we started left to right, I'll go right to left just to finish it off that way. Why should people vote for you? And Connie, I'll start with you. This is the last question of the session, too, in case you were wondering.
Well, I've lived here for 30 years, and I think my perspective about how this town works has evolved over that 30 years. I've gotten to know more people in more parts of town. I've gotten to experience more of the strengths and the challenges in this town. And I think I bring an ability to connect people because of all that familiarity with the town. I'd like to have a chance to do it again.
Thank you. Autumn, why should people vote for you?
Thanks for that opportunity to say. I think what I bring to the board is that institutional knowledge of how we work as a board, also a longtime resident along with many here, and sort of knowledge of the community in town and who we want to be and how we want to get there. But that institutional knowledge, my background as a land use lawyer and sort of how planning works, how laws work around things that we want to do or want to prioritize, what can we do as a board, what decisions can we make versus staff. I think that is also critically important. I have a first life focus on historic preservation and history, and that's really important to me as a person, and I think important to the community. And so I would bring, or will continue to bring, a passion there in trying to create our economic development around our uniquely Davidson spaces.
Thank you. Tracy, why should people vote for you?
I am a passionate servant leader, and I am all about community. And there are so many different challenges that we face, but the one thing that I know for sure is that in order to overcome those challenges, it takes collaboration. And so I'm a person that brings people together. 4 years ago, I started facilitating a neighborhood meeting in Davidson West to bring the neighborhood together because there is a great divide. And I believe that there's power in unity, even though we're diverse and our neighborhood was changing. How do we change with that? And so just helping people, walking alongside people in that vein of bringing people together is something that I do and I'm passionate about. And I think that more focus on how we grow is important, and being intentional about the needs as they change. And I think that one thing that I'm really focused on is making Davidson a better place, but an inviting place that also lends itself to meet the needs of those who've been here a long time, and is also inviting to the new residents. And so I think that I'm the type of person that I'm like the bridge that brings different diversities together. And so that's what I bring to the table, amongst other things.
Thank you. And David, why should people vote for you?
Well, that's the only smart decision to make, actually. No, just kidding. I really come in with a very unique set of skill sets and experiences compared to other folks who are running for commission. I did grow up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and even though I lived in the DC area for a number of years, I've always been David from a small town. So I care about small towns. I understand what small towns are like, having grown up in one, and I've also seen what has happened to my hometown as things kind of fell apart as the economy started to crumble. Davidson doesn't just operate in a vacuum, though. Davidson has to work with elected officials at other levels, and that's something that I specialize in, the ability to work with federal and state lawmakers. I know that we pulled down ARPA funding, American Plan Rescue Act, to do some things with Parnham Park. There are other things that we've had to reach out to federal lawmakers, so I have that type of experience. And you want a commission that's going to be much like a chorus. You know, the best choir out there doesn't have all sopranos, all tenors, all bass voices. You want to have a different sort of perspective that comes together, and different voices that come together, and different backgrounds that come together. Just like Connie said in her statement in News of Davidson, she thinks that it's important that new voices are engaged with town. I'm that new voice that should be engaged with the commission.
Thank you each for being here this evening, willing to talk to people, answer questions. David, Tracy, Autumn, and Connie, 4 candidates for the commissioners for the town of Davidson. We have now reached our first break, or our only break this evening, our intermission between the town commissioners. And next up, we've got CMS School Board District 1. Up next, we're going to take a short recess, and we will return. Thank you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Testing.
Testing. No mic for you.
That's better.
Bill, I'm switching them to 1. One. It's gonna be mic 1. Check, 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 check. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. That hear me? Okay.
All right, who's ready to get a party started? All right. Good evening and welcome back to our special public forum, the first in our series of 3, broadcasted on WSIC in partnership with the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. We are grateful for the town of Davidson for welcoming us in tonight. Our first session consisted of the candidates for the Davidson Town Board, and now we go to CMS School Board District number 1. Thank you each for being here this evening. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. And we are going to go left to right on the stage for the first question, just for fun randomly. At the end, I'm going to go the reverse route. It's just how it's going to work tonight. Sir, if you would, introduce yourself, please.
Well, good afternoon or evening. I'm Bill Fountain. I'm a Christian husband, father, grandfather, and a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Was in the business manager and a licensed North Carolina school teacher. And the way I see things is that for too long, the CMS School Board has put social and political agenda ahead of academic excellence. We're looking at about 2/3 of the students are not meeting the state standard. And not only that, but this type of agenda undermines family values, tolerates code of student conduct violations, and focus or steers some children toward a victimhood mindset. The other thing is I think what we need to do is to do things that really work. And that is better behavior, character formation, and focusing on the basics, reading, writing, and math. My wife and I have been living here for over 20 years, and like I said, I didn't say that, but I taught school for 10 years, and both CMS and went in a Catholic school. And I retired from that, and now I have, as a retired guy, I have some time and energy to put our kids first and not politics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Easley. I have the honor and privilege of currently serving as your North Meck representative on the CMS School Board. I am a small business owner. I am a 19-year educator, 10 of which of those years I've spent in CMS. And I am your most recent board member. And so I am very, very excited to be here and share my knowledge with all of you.
I am Charlita from Charlotte. I am not just from here, I am for here. I went to Davidson IB. And I graduated from Vance High School, which is Julius Chambers, where I met my husband in the 10th grade, so I understand the district from top to bottom. I have 3 things I'd like to share with you. 1, log in. I'm currently getting my doctorate in urban education, where I'm studying why families are not putting their kids in CMS. And I think that perspective on the board when we talk about the state of public education will be critical as we look to restore back public trust in our education system. 2, level up. So I am the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the City of Charlotte, where I'm responsible for our business intelligence and our artificial intelligence strategy. I think every board needs a thought leader in the artificial intelligence space as we think about how do we lead responsibly and ethically, and also think about the jobs that not just kids have today, but jobs we don't even know exist for tomorrow. And lastly, lead forward. In 2020, I was president of the Junior League of Charlotte, where I led that organization through the pandemic, an anti-racist journey, as well as redefining our business model. And I believe we're in pandemic type times now as we think about all the uncertainty that people feel. And so you need a leader who is solutions oriented and can move beyond advocacy to action. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Now with the round of questions, and again, you are welcome to submit if you are here in the crowd. We are also monitoring online. We do have some online questions as well we hope to get to tonight as well. And so I'm going to start in the middle. Melissa, what are your priorities for the board to address?
I think that my top 4 tend to be our student achievement, closing those achievement gaps, pushing our student achievement forward. We've made great strides this year and want to keep doing that. The transparency to our families, not only for our individual families, but to the community and to our teachers, and making sure that we are using our dollars effectively. These are things that I have been working on my last 3 years, and I want to continue those things because all 4 of those things are really what make CMS one of the greatest districts in the country.
Bill, same question for you. What are your priorities for the board to address?
Well, there are several. One of the first was, let me just go to the social promotions. One of the things that bothers me is that, I don't know whether you heard about this, but Arthur Griffin, the county commissioner for Mecklenburg, had mentioned, or had actually found out, that in the 2024 graduates, that some 2,100 of those students, of the 9,700 students, actually had a grade point average below 2.0. And he called that disastrous because that was going to, these children were not going to be able to find jobs, they won't be able to get enlisted, and of course they won't be able to go to college. And I think that's a misguided equity that's being used on that because they're trying to level the outcomes. And by leveling the outcomes, you're taking away merit and fairness, which needs to be part of our focus for our children, is to have the fairness. So, because think about the receiving teacher. That's the end of my time. Thank you.
Mr. Arlita, your same question for you. What are your priorities for the board to address?
Right now, CMS has their first goal, which is to improve K through 2nd early literacy. And we saw that although there was growth, we did not hit the mark. I'm a 3-time children's book author and really focused on how do you make sure that kids fall in love with reading. So I would definitely focus there. The second priority would be around how do we make sure that our families understand all of the possibilities within CMS. As someone who's studied the choices that families have within the district, I believe that an external communications plan is going to be critical in order to make sure that we're addressing the diverse communication needs in our community so that families can understand, not just push information out, but make sure that it's strategic. And then lastly, like I mentioned earlier, CMS is on their pilot journey for AI, and I'd like to really be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Arlita, for you again, I will ask the next question. What would you do with the first 6 months of the term if elected and you could do anything?
So I have been a strategic leader for most of my career. So I spent the first 20 years at IBM, Accenture, and Slalom, where I led organizations through large-scale transformations. And the one thing that I have learned is that no one likes a leader that comes in as a know-it-all. And so I believe that you need to come in and really make sure that once you're in the seat, that you understand the historical knowledge, that you give honor to the people who have done the work before you, and that you do a good amount of listening. But should I have no dollars and did not have to worry about the perceptions of being a leader in that space, the very first thing I would do is dig into the data to really understand the demographics of the achievements that CMS is touting, because we know that there's a disparity even in our district, a 40-point gap. And so I'd like to really understand that and really start to dig by holding the superintendent accountable to making sure that all kids are being brought along the journey and we're not just celebrating the ones at the top.
Thank you. Melissa, same question for you. What would you do with the first 6 months of the term if you were elected and you could do anything?
Well, if we want to be real confident, if I could do anything, I would be raising teacher pay. Unfortunately, I am not able to do that. So the best thing that I can do in the first 6 months is to continue the transparency and to meet parents where they're at. I've been hosting a newsletter since 2022. I've been hosting meetups all over the place, out here in Davidson, in Cornelius, North Charlotte, all of those places, once a month, where I just go and I say, hey, here I am. No agenda, come talk to me, you have questions. I've done everything from help parents fill out forms to understand, help a parent being able to help their child. I've taught them science concepts so they could go in and help their child. So those things are really, they've been really beneficial, and they're some of my favorite things to do. And so within the next 6 months, I would like to ramp that up a little bit more. I'd like to do more. I'd like to have more participation on the other end, maybe do some online ones and things like that to go in and meet the community more of where they're at, so I can bring them along.
Thank you. Bill, same question for you. What would you do with the first 6 months of a term if you were elected and could do anything?
Well, after listening to a variety of different people knocking on doors and to voters, and one of the things that people are calling me about, and that is that some of the first graders, or I guess this is for a lot of the grades, are doing this social emotional learning. And what I would like to do is to revise that social emotional learning to focus it more on character development and development of virtues like integrity, resilience, kindness, those type of things, which I think could be possible if you refine that role, because people want that. Just think about if you all remember the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where in order for people to achieve things, they have to feel safe, they have to feel belonged to and respected. And those are type of things that character will help develop. And with that, I think students will be more likely to learn quicker. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, what do you believe to be the most important items in the CMS budget?
So the most important item in our CMS budget would be how we pay our teachers and our staff to educate our children. We understand that our money comes from the county and from the state, but if we don't have teachers in the classrooms, then our students can't learn.
Thank you. Melissa, what do you believe to be the most important items in the CMS budget?
I think we have several. I think we have, obviously, our teachers. 80% of our budget goes to staff. And so obviously that is our number one priority, is making sure that every staff, because we cannot move that needle forward without a qualified teacher in every classroom. And so that is number one, is making sure there's a qualified teacher in every classroom. The second thing is making sure that those teachers are supported and not just thrown in there and say, here, teach, right? Because we need support, we need help and things like that. So having the resources to do that. Making sure that all kids are part of that belonging and love and cherishment, and not just ones that, look like some people or don't. But, I think all of that is important. We want to teach the whole child. And so teaching the whole child is not just academics, that's part of the child. And so that's what I love about CMS, is that we focus on the whole child. So we focus on that integrity and that social emotional learning. We focus on the academics. We focus on all parts of the child.
Thank you. Bill, same question for you. What are the most important items in the CMS budget?
I think probably the most important is the teacher's pay. And if you look at the the bureaucracy growth within CMS district, the school district, versus the number of students, which has been pretty level, and the number of teachers has been pretty level. However, the bureaucracy has grown quite a large slope, and I think trimming that budget, that growth of the bureaucracy, would be able to have a higher supplement for our teachers and reduce class sizes. And I think that could be something that could be done, because this is not just only in CMS. This is throughout the nation that I've seen the same high growth in the bureaucracy, and a lot has to do with the greater demands that have been placed. I guess you call it mission creep, is what I'd guess to call it, mission creep within the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the next question. Bill, this one will be for you again. In what ways would you make sure that District 1's needs and priorities stay relevant with the entire CMS board?
Well, I think one of the first things, of course, is being in contact with the people of District 1, which we are here, and having the opportunity to speak even at school boards and also at the different meeting with the PTAs and learning and making sure that we have a good relationship with them. But to keep that priority going is you'd have to be a voice, and that is and I can actually compliment Melissa in saying no to a contract that was let for $500,000 that she and other people who thought that was not the right thing, and unfortunately she had retaliated against. So I think there's some things that we need to obviously watch what the budget is and what's going on within the schools, particularly trying to make sure that we have some safe schools. I know it's important for our parents. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, what would you do to make sure the needs and priorities of District 1 remain a priority with the CMS school board?
So that is my entire job. My entire job is to represent the vision and values of the community. I cannot do that if I don't know what those visions and values are. And so my newsletter is one way to connect with families. My Minute with Melissa's are another way that I've connected with families. I connect on social media. I'm everywhere on social media, making sure that families that have questions at least get some sort of answer, or at least directed to somebody. I would like to grow that. I would like to continue that, because this takes all of us. It's going to take our educators, it's going to take our families, it's going to take our community to bring back bring back North Carolina schools as a top education state that we were 10, 15 years ago.
Thank you. Charlotte, what would you do to make sure the needs and priorities of District 1 remain a priority with the CMS school board?
So I think it's actually pretty disrespectful to make insinuations that another person could tell another woman what to do. As an educated Black female, I am actually doing what I believe will help make sure the needs of District 1 are met by actually running in this race. I understand the breadth of District 1 from North Charlotte to Davidson. And I know what it means to center the community voice. I have been a scholar in that work. I have done that as a business leader. You have to bring people along the journey with you and have those voices at the decision-making table. So it's not just pushing information out, it's really bringing those voices in. So putting my name in is a step towards that.
Thank you. Charlotte, I'll start with you again here. Do you support NIL for high school athletes?
So I mentioned to you all that my husband and I met in 10th grade at Vance, where we went to states. He played football at Elon. I have a brother who played basketball at Vance as well, and then went on to play basketball at High Point and abroad. And so one of the things that I've learned from them is the amount of work and effort that happens to athletes. And a lot of times some of these universities really profit off of the athletes. And yes, they get their tuition paid, but there is so much more that is taken from those athletes. So in the right context and with the right balance and oversight, I could see why athletes would actually be able to own their name, whether they are in kind of higher ed or beyond.
Thank you. Melissa, do you support NIL for high school athletes?
So I think this is a really loaded question because, like Ms. Hatch says, there are different layers to this, and it is actually something, I'm a fine arts person. I know more about the arts than I do about sports, so this is something that I would definitely need to dive into. But this is not something that the CMS board decides. That's a state thing with the evaluation and all that kind of stuff with the sports and what you can and can't do. However, I also think there are cases where it could be a benefit. I think there needs to be guidelines to that so that we don't get someone that goes way off the deep end or way, we get these two extremes. But that is something actually I would need to dig in more to give a real confident answer in.
Thank you. Bill, same question for you. Do you support NIL for high school athletes?
I think I think that the points they're making about the athletes obviously have their academics they have to deal with, but also they're spending a lot of time in the arena of being prepared for their whatever the sports that they're in, and that is something that that I can understand, and I think is it's actually complementary because it's broadening their scope of future too, because it's giving them a lot greater span of activities. So I would still, I'd really like to hold off on, saying that, I think like Melissa had said, that's kind of a way of a loaded way, of a question about which way to go on that. Thank you.
Thank you all. Melissa, what is your position on school choice?
So, school choice is great. Everyone should make the decision that is best for their families. Period, the end. There's no other discussion than that. However, my biggest issue is that public funds not going to public schools. That's the issue that I have with school choice. And I am absolutely open to talking at other options. This is not a all or nothing, right? So if schools, whether they're private or public, that accept public money or taxpayer public money, then they should be held to the same standards that everyone else is that is taking public money. The school itself, that is completely 100% into the parents' mind, or parents, and children and whatever works for your family. However, we need to relook at what those schools that accept that money actually, most of them are under our scores, especially this year. Most of them are under our scores. Most of them do not allow for free and reduced lunch, which, brings out a lot of, cuts out a lot of people. So if they were to be held at the same standard, then I have absolutely no problem with public funds getting public money. But right now, the way the standards are different, while I support school choice and that we should always have it, and that is a very fair option, public funds should not be going to private schools.
Thank you. Bill, what is your position on school choice?
Well, I support school choice, and the way I look at it is that the money that the taxpayers are paying is actually going essentially to the child, and so that the parents can decide where to send that child is their prerogative, and I want to make sure that's continued to do it. And not only that, but in several of the states that have expanded school choice, taxpayer-funded school choice, has actually improved the public schools. The states are Florida, and I can't remember what the other one was. I know Indiana and I think it was Arizona are the other ones that have seen actually improvement in their public school systems at the same time, because I guess it creates the market for dollars. So I think like I said, I support school choice because too many families I think are upset because they're trapped in a failing or a not so good school. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, same question for you. What is your position on school choice?
Critical times right now. When you think about where we are with public education across the country. And so when you have the ability to, I agree that every family has to make decisions for their child. But what we want to make sure is that every family has an option to get their birthright of a high quality education by way of our public schools. So public dollars should not leave the public school system, but families should have the option to make their choices the way that they need to. As I mentioned earlier, I've been studying for the last 5 years urban education and specifically how families are choosing schools and why they are not choosing CMS. And so some of that is around not having the information to navigate through a system so large and one in that smallness. So I think we got to figure out how to make it small so that families feel like CMS is an option for them, whether they choose it or not. We want that to be an option.
Thank you. Bill, next question. I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you believe the role of technology should be for students in schools?
Repeat that again. What, but the economic what?
What do you believe the role of technology should be for students in schools?
Of knowledge.
Of technology.
Oh, technology. Oh,
yes, sir.
Here's from pedagogy wise is that if you look at the Harvard and NIH studies, they have found that having students having a lot of screen time at young ages actually is bad for their neurological development. And so I would be of the mindset that, because I know within CMS we have K through 2, I think it is, it have iPads, and 3 through 5, I think it is, it have Chromebooks. So I would say, hey, we shouldn't be doing that because I think that is disturbing their neurological development. And going back to books, writing on the whiteboards, whatever, those type of things I think ought to be used, because I think the technology is actually having a counter effect than what we think is supposed to be happening to our children. So I think it's detrimental to our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, same question for you. What do you believe the role of technology to be for students in schools?
So let me start out by saying my master's degree is in online teaching and learning. So using technology has always been something in my classroom. In fact, I've been one of the first CMS teachers to use flipped classrooms and distance technology, which I've done for over a decade at this point. So technology is a tool. Just like a math manipulative, just like a science kit, it is a tool. Yes, those studies do show that K-12 or K-2 should be off screen time. But in all reality, all of our tests from the state and diagnostics are online. They are digital. They have to know how to use a device to take those tests, because guess what? We want to see those tests of what they actually know and not them trying to figure out how to use the technology. Technology should absolutely be a tool that teachers use. CMS is leading the way in AI development with our policies, with our regulation, and with our pilot programs that we've been doing, including 4 of them here in North Mech. I actually just did a whole article on this. If you go onto my social media, I break this all down, exactly what it is, where you can find more information, and what it means for you and your student to use our technology.
Thank you. Charlita, what do you believe the role of technology to be for students in schools?
We are in the 21st century in the United States of America. And what we want is for all of our students to be competitive in this global connected society. We need to do that in age-appropriate ways, but we need to make sure that we have a technology and digital learning plan that allows our students to be digitally literate as they navigate through this society. If we take technology away, or if we are not putting our kids ahead on that curve, we're actually failing them when we have this goal of every student being enrolled, employed, or enlisted if they are not able to cope and navigate and operate the way we do as adults. It is our responsibility to make sure our students are digitally literate and can operate in this society.
Thank you. Ms. Charlita, I'll follow up with the same, another question, starting with you first. Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus, with students, and in open on social media?
Can you repeat the question?
Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus with students and in open social media?
So we live in a very diverse society. And so I believe school is a place for learning. I mentioned earlier, I am a 3 times children's book author, and there is an example that we often give when we're talking about the role of books. And that is that there are mirrors in which you can see yourself and windows where you peek into the life of someone else. So if you are expressing a balanced view in which everyone can feel like they belong and are seen and it is a learning opportunity, then I think that is absolutely appropriate. If it is a one-sided view or something that would make people feel like they do not belong, and it is actually doing instructional time, then I would not support that.
Thank you. Melissa, should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus with students and in open social media?
Well, I guess most people know I've had a really unique experience with this. So here's what I'm going to say. A teacher is still an American citizen. Their rights do not end at that school door. That being said, you asked me 3 different situations: in school, with students, and on their personal page, correct?
Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus with students and in open social media?
Okay, so campus and on students, those need to be neutral, 100%. You are an educator, you need to teach all sides. As a social studies teacher, I spent 10 years doing that, teaching all religions, teaching all aspects. Not once did my students know my personal and political beliefs. My personal social media is a different thing. My rights as a human being do not stop just because I am a school board member or a teacher. And so on my personal my personal page, your personal thoughts, your personal feelings are absolutely warranted, and you have every right to feel them no matter what they are, as long as they are not, you are not advocating to hurt somebody else. Obviously, there's caveats to all that, but you have the right to say what you want to say in your personal views. That should not cross the line into your teacher cane in your education standpoint.
Thank you. Bill, should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus with students and in open social media?
Well, in the open social media, you have your First Amendment rights to express yourself. If you're particularly if you're underlying the thing is that, hey, I'm speaking as my personal opinions, not as a school board member or as a teacher or or whatever. So you have that prerogative to be able to do that, and you should be allowed to be able to do that. And in regard to being able to, in the classroom, about expressing personal opinions that were, it's as long as they're the type of things that are in your textbooks that are agreed to textbooks or curriculum, then that's the way you want to go with that curriculum of what they're saying, rather than adding your own biases or your own thoughts into the mix. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Melissa, what do you think CMS does well, and what do you think CMS does poorly?
I think CMS does well. We have a lot of heart. We have a lot of caring. We have teachers that would do anything for their students. Our staff, from Dr. Hill down to our custodial staff and our BMTs, everyone wants what's best for students, and they will go out of their way. And we have some of the best staff ever, whether that's in the schools or in upper top or whatever it is. We have some of the best staffs, and I'm absolutely proud to be part of CMS and be part of CMS for so many years. But there's always room to grow. And I think our biggest challenge right now is our communication. We are looking for a new communications officer. We have, it's always been a problem of communication in CMS. This has been a long time thing, not only communication from the top to staff, but the top to public, from the staff to, there's always been issues. And so we really need to get that right. And I truly am honored to say that Dr. Hill really takes the time to learn from her experiences, and the things that may not have gone well, she takes that, what did we learn from it, and how can we improve that? And I'm really proud to say that I've seen her do this on multiple occasions.
Thank you. Charlita, what do you think CMS does well? What do you think CMS does poorly?
I think one of the things that I think CMS does well really has to relate to the leadership and the growth that they experienced this last year. So what they're doing is definitely working overall. And that I would make that a testament to leadership, kind of leaning in and really turning the tide there. In addition to communication, one of the things that I think CMS is probably still doing poorly, and you could even see that in our district, is that there's still inequities that exist across our schools, and specifically, with Black and brown children across the district and how in which they perform, and the grade levels of those schools. So I think there should be some concerted effort to really take that same energy and effort in what we're doing well overall as a district and really tailoring it to the areas that need it the most.
Thank you. Bill, what do you think CMS does well, and what do you think CMS does poorly?
Well, I think to compliment the school system on having the variety of different magnet schools, the IB, STEM and arts, and a variety of different things that a lot of people have a lot of choices to be able to pick from, even though that the enrollment has been pretty flat for quite a while. But from the poorly, I have to go back to the notion of the student performance, and even from the last one from the state, showing that 44% of the students were not proficient at their grade level. That doesn't give you a good feeling for the future of these children, because I know as a former teacher, if I get a student coming in to my classroom who is not prepared for, I was teaching math, who doesn't know certainly about equations or whatever, he or she are going to struggle. And not only that, that's going to take time away from your fellow students, which is not fair. Thank you.
Moving to safety, Charlita, I'll start with you first. What, if any, safety precautions do you believe should be implemented at CMS?
So one of the things that is important to me and my platform is not just around the physical safety, because I think we will all agree on that and what that needs to look like, and we want every parent to feel like their child is safe when you leave them at school. But really around psychological safety and mental safety. I think we've really got to get to some proactive measures. Our students are dealing with so much, and we're seeing, anxiety, depression, and suicide continue to rise. And we want to make sure that students feel like they are safe, that they belong, that there's a grown-up that somewhere that they can turn to. So it would be psychological and mental safety.
Thank you. Melissa? What, if any, safety precautions do you believe should be added at CMS?
We're doing a lot of things. We are redesigning our schools to make them all one building so that we're not having separate buildings having to go outside. We are making them with new vestibules. I was able to see one of our newest schools, Sedgefield Montessori, and how the vestibule works. And what it is you get, you hit the button just like you always do, but then you walk in and there's another set of doors that have security glass, and you have to get buzzed in or let in again, just in case. So it's that second layer of security that we've really started. We're also getting out of the blind business, is what we like to say, and that we're doing tinted windows. So these are new things that are coming in that you can see out but not in. So we're working on that as well, and working with some of our schools on that. Around the mental safety, that is absolutely a #1 priority. It's things that I have worked on. In fact, the very first thing I did on the board when I got on was fight for nurses to be better, and more nurses to be allowed in schools. At that time, nurses had to have a bachelor's degree to work in a school. And we found out that, our CNAs and RNAs can also do that as well. And so it opened up our opportunity to get more nurses to help that mental health, to help the physical health, to help that security for all of our students. And we were able to now get more nurses that way by able to breaking up that thing and bring it to someone's attention.
Thank you. Bill, what, if any, safety precautions do you believe should be added at CMS?
Well, I think we ought to have an adequate number of resource officers in each and all the schools. That'd be one of the first things. And the other one is, which I even mentioned in the opening remarks, was about the tolerating the code of student conduct violations. I think that has to cease. CMS has a great code of student conduct, but from teachers and people that I have talked to, that's not being enforced consistently throughout the school system. And I think that's going to have a lot to do with safety, because teachers have told me that they've been cursed out by students. And of course, if a teacher doesn't feel safe, what's going on? So that, I think that's a very important part of it, is to enforce or to honor the code of student conduct. And of course, like I mentioned, resource officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, is CMS too big?
And I've heard both sides of this, and both sides have very valid arguments, and I understand that. I am not from here, I will say that. I do know that the district was smaller. In the 70s, they went to one big district. Are there benefits to splitting up the district? Absolutely. Are there benefits to not splitting up the district? Absolutely. And so I think this is just something that is a personal thing and not one way or another that is going to benefit or hurt students. And so this is not something that I actually, really put time into, but I understand where people see it's too big, and I see it myself. When we have snow and ice up here and there's rain down in South Charlotte, we have to close the whole district. Is that the right thing to do? But yet, closing individual schools, the state doesn't allow us to do that. So we still have to work within the state. It's either, we can only close certain schools for individual specific reasons. Otherwise, we have to close as a district. So it puts us in a very tough spot, but I think it's just more of a personal choice, and I get it. I get both sides.
Bill, is CMS too big?
Yes, I think the answer is yes. When I was in the business world, we had different corporations. Once they grew to a certain size, they would split off that as another, almost a separate identity, because of the whole idea that you want the decision making down at the lowest competent level. And I think that would bode well, because we already know that. I can't remember, we're 14th or 16th or something like that in the nation, and the way the size of that CMS is that I think it needs to be segregated up into different sections. How? I don't know. You could go east, west, north. I don't know. But I think just from a management standpoint of view, and efficiency, and bringing the people closer to the schools, I think that would be an important step to do, is to break the system up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arlita. Same question to you. Is CMS too big?
So I think, there are definitely probably some companies that spin off, but we also know there's the Fortune 500, and we have 20 Fortune 500 companies, at least in this area, that have over 500,000 employees. And so I think it is a matter of what you do with the culture. And so I could say from a District 1 perspective, you could probably feel you're not central to the heart of Charlotte and therefore forgotten, and that it's too big. And so I think it's up to us as a district, because we have so many different opportunities and possibilities because of the size that we have, is that we've got to figure out ways to make it feel small. And how do we get that community and make sure that the voices at the very top of the North feel like they're being heard right here in central office?
Thank you all for this evening. We will have our last question now, and as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to go right to left this time as well. Mr. Arlita, why should people vote for you?
So, like I mentioned earlier, we are in critical times, and I think that you need someone in District 1 that, one, understands the district from the bottom to the top. I think having someone that is from this area, where we have 157 people moving here every day, and knows the possibilities that CMS provides as a first-generation college student because of CMS. I know what an HBCU is, and I was able to go to Hampton University. And you bring that voice with you to the board. Additionally, although I am not a traditional classroom educator, the voices and the perspectives that I bring are currently not on the board. Being a scholar and studying family engagement and why mothers are not putting their kids in CMS, being a business leader and a technology leader, and then being a solutions kind of community organizer for the last 20 years. I think a combination of those skills, as well as being a mother and a children's book author and a podcaster, a combination of all of those skills, I think, allows me to be able to be relatable across the district and provide a different set of skill set that the board does not currently have and could benefit from.
Thank you. Melissa, why should people vote for you?
The taxpayers and our citizens demand results, and I do too. And I've brought those results. I have brought results of closing achievement gaps. I have brought results of hiring our scores. I am a 19-year educator. I bring board experience. I'm a small business owner. I realize how big these communications and these events are, that a small group where you can hear and go to listen. I've been in the education system for over 20 years at this point. 15 of those years have been spent in CMS. I understand what teachers need. I understand what our students need. And as a parent of 2 CMS students, I have a parent perspective as well. And so I get the legislative perspective, I get the teacher perspective, and I get the parent perspective. And I'm the only one up here with all 3 of those to bring all of those experiences to the school board.
Thank you. Bill, why should people vote for you?
Well, the first thing I think is because I care, and I'm not to mean that the rest of these ladies right here don't care either. I mean, but I do care about what's going on in our school. You know, about putting kids first and not politics. I have the leadership, teamwork, and in the classroom experience, I think, to be an effective change agent into preparing our children to succeed in life, not to be socially promoted, but to succeed in life, to empower our parents, to promote school choice, and one of the most important parts is to hold or uphold traditional values in the classroom so that we can have the ideas that Melissa even mentioned about the belonging, the caring, and the integrity. Those are very important. And of course, one of the other things is that, I guess it's because of my military background, is that I know that how important discipline and behavior is into our orderly day, normal life. I mean, we have traffic laws that we have to obey, and if we obey those traffic laws, the traffic flows fine. But if we don't, it's a mess. So that's one of the things I bring, that leadership, teamwork, and in the classroom experience. Thank you.
Thank each of you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. We appreciate you answering the questions, and I'm going to get blasted online as well because I did not get to ask all of the questions that we got tonight. But there are more opportunities. I'm sure there's more opportunities to engage with these candidates as the election gets closer, and so we would encourage everyone to take advantage of that opportunity. To our radio family on WSIC, we always appreciate you listening. To our video live stream family, thank you as well. And of course, to our live audience, we appreciate you joining us this evening. Be sure to join us next Tuesday. We will be in Cornelius at their town hall with their mayoral and their board candidates, and then in Huntersville the following week as well for their mayoral and their board candidates. We appreciate you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.